very warm welcome to everyone. Today's all about the importance of having the right mindset, the right focus, the resilience that I spoke about a few minutes ago. And I often ask this question. It's a really, really powerful question that resonates with both sport and with business, and that is: are you playing not to lose, or are you playing to win? And that's a really, really important question to ask yourself in terms of, are you playing not to lose, or are you playing to win? And it's intriguing the number of times that a football team or a sports team are ahead in a game and then decide that they're going to defend or hold that lead, and ultimately start conceding goals or start losing pace and ultimately lose or are not victorious. And one of the series I've really enjoyed during the lockdown is this whole series with Michael Jordan, The Last Dance. And Michael talks about the whole importance of playing to win, whether during practice or in a real game. I will not let anything get in the way of me and my competitive enthusiasm to win that. And boy, was it instrumental in this series on the final dance that he starred in. I had never really learned, the last dance, I never really knew much about Michael Jordan, but boy, his competitive instinct, his instinct to do whatever it was going to take to win. Sometimes he didn't really always get on with his teammates, and it was not backwards and coming forwards when somebody wasn't pulling their weight or someone needed to really step up a gear. But that notion, that competitive instinct to play to win. And I think, as I said a few minutes ago, it's those organizations that over the last 3 or 4 months began with a mindset that we're going to do whatever it takes to prevail. We're going to do whatever it takes, however hard this pandemic hits us, to come out on the right side. And I think that is the mindset that not only businesses have, but winners have as well. You know, right now we should have probably been having the Tokyo Olympics, and we can cast back to, and actually I've been really enjoying some of the reruns of the London Olympics from 8 years ago. God, it's 8 years ago now. And just seeing what some of those traits that made some of those supreme winners, those athletes who are stepping up onto the gold rostrum, what made them true winners. And if you listen to them, more often than not, they've got this amazing mindset. It doesn't matter how much of a challenge ahead of them, if they're injured, if they've got some real difficulties with training, if they lose a bit of motivation, they seem to have this ability to think with a positive mindset. And they're able to dig deep around that. And I guess a lot of you on the call today would probably been, over the last 3 or 4 months, had significant challenges, significant noise going on in your head, really literally self-doubt sometimes about did you have what it's going to take to be able to make a difference. And so being able to keep calm, to be able to take all the noise that was going outside your head, to be able to continue to check in and see the good news that was going on around, as well as the challenges. I think I often use this expression of just having your antennae up and people being able to see opportunities when others can't see anything. They're just maybe stuck on the headlights. So I was listening to Jess speak a couple of weeks ago and explaining, Jess Ennis Hill, explaining some of those traits that made her an Olympic gold medalist. And one of the things I was struck by was this first thing that she talked about. She talked about this notion, I know we talked about it in the coaching as well, that routine sets you free. Routine sets you free. By that you mean these great athletes have this routine whereby they're able to set down every single day. They'll get up at a similar time. They may go through their meditation. They go and do the training at a set amount of time. They go about all their other focus and the planning at a certain amount of time. They have a real routine that ultimately sets them free. And I think there's a lot to be learned from that, to be able to set a routine where we are able to have our daily exercise, meditation, our reading, our training, the way that we go about working with a team, having the right daily huddles around that, to allow you then to be free to do whatever it takes in order to grow your business. The other thing that I was really, really intrigued about, which goes back to help drive positive thinking, is it's an importance of having a healthy balance, a healthy life. And if you're going to feel good, and I suppose athletes will get this, because by working out a lot, you're bringing the positive endorphins and all those things that go with it. Having regular exercise, taking control of your diet, so you're eating well right now is probably important than ever. Being able to sort of surround yourself with people who are going to make you feel good, who will be able to pick you up when you're feeling down, will be able to give you the lift. Really, really important that those are sort of traits that she was really talking about. The other thing that really struck me, and I suppose this is probably more important than ever, is I'm sure all of us during lockdown have been challenged in many respects about the quality of our sleep. And I don't think we probably can ever underestimate the importance of sleep. And one of the books I read during the lockdown was by Matthew Walker, simply Why We Sleep, and the importance of sleep in making sure that we are and have the right energy, the right motivation, the right drive to do whatever it takes. Now, I hadn't realized quite how much science was behind the importance of sleep, but having the routine I found of going to bed at a regular time, talking about making sure that, again, a lot of us have got into habits of probably looking at our phones before we go to bed, watching videos in bed, having lots of blue light going on. And that's wondering why we weren't getting a great night's sleep. And Jess was talking about as well on this video about the importance of having a great mattress. I think probably she might even be sponsored by someone who's a mattress maker. But nonetheless, she was talking about the importance of having a mattress. And that probably really struck with me, because if you're going to be spending 8 hours of life every single day on bed, make sure that you've got a great mattress, make sure that you are getting a great night's sleep. Because with a great night's sleep, as I said, it gives us the right amount of energy to front up the challenges that we have every single day, gives us the drive to do whatever it needs to take. So I think that was really interesting, and I guess that's probably been compounded as well. If you take elite sport, I remember Dave Brailsford reading in the book about the performance of Sky, was saying that they were looking at marginal gains, and one of the things they did for all of their cyclists, all their athletes, was take their their mattress around to every single hotel. The athlete would have their own personal mattress. Why? To ensure that they had a great night's sleep, so they would perform at their very best the next day. These tiny little details, really, really important. And also, right through the lockdown, I think there's people who've had the right mindset, who've had the right energy, who are success-minded, have also had this attitude of gratitude that, wherever we are, I know that it's been hugely difficult, for a lot of us, but I suppose being grateful for hopefully, our health, grateful for our team, grateful for our business, grateful for the people around us, grateful for our family, whatever it is, having an attitude of gratitude has been really, really important. And so just reflecting, again, as part of your rhythm on each day, what am I grateful for today? What has gone well? What am I grateful for when someone is stepping up? What am I grateful for from the kids? What am I grateful for from, to connect with parents or the family and stuff like that? It's so important just to have that attitude of gratitude, certainly when we've got such challenging times that might feel difficult to be grateful for anything right now. We're grateful giving us this pandemic and whatever. But I think people with a real success mindset have this notion of an attitude of gratitude. And one of the webinars we ran about 6 weeks ago, we had Deborah Corrie on the line. I remember Deborah talking about not just gratitude for herself, but actually showing recognition and thanks to others around us and how important that is. And probably that's something that I've been really reflecting on, is what can we do, not only be thankful for what's coming our way, but what can we do to be thankful to others around us and members of our team, and having that recognition, really, really important. Focus again, has probably been one of the traits that super successful people have in buckets. Super successful athletes, super successful business people, people in the stage seem to have this laser-like focus on what's really important to them. So I think in terms of how you go about your focus on these areas, I think that's really, really important as well. So we talked about this last time, that scaling up requires significant focus and discipline. Scott Parker talked about this right now. And I mean, there's so many distractions going on, so many different things that you could or couldn't be doing. Right now, having the ability to be really, really focused on your goals, on what's important to you right now, being able to focus in the now and let that, all the heat and the noise that's going on in your mind get dissipated is so important. And I think not only is focus important, but those people who really prevail have probably got a deep sense of purpose. A deep sense of why they're doing what they're doing is so important. And Simon Sinek talks about it. People don't really care what you do, but they care passionately about why you do what you do. And actually, like just actually at this stage, you know, Michael's listening in right now. I'm just going to bring you in, Michael, because I think, you know, when we talked about how much time we invested to look to bring around a clear vision, a clear purpose for Stilo, and it wasn't easy, was it? It was, you know, it took an awful lot of time, awful lot of heartache, awful lot of energy. But why was that so important to you? Why is having a profound sense of purpose and a why so important, do you think, to an organization?
Well, it brings the whole team together, without question of doubt. We then are able to be laser focused on why we turn up to work every single day and why is it so important for us to deliver exactly when we promise to our customers. So finding out why we do things, and the funny thing is that every one of us has got already inside. It's got that inside of us, yeah. But yeah, it just needs to be dragged out of you and then just written somewhere on the wall.
Yeah. Do you think it's served you well, having something that is a wide sense of purpose? So when you have got obstacles and roadblocks and challenges, that you can just look to that and that gives you a sense of renewed energy that you're doing something that really matters?
Yeah, it's almost every single strategic meeting we have, we bring that back, that we stand for reliability, and then every decision is what decision should we make to ensure that we still continue to provide a reliable service.
Yeah, no, I get that. Chris, what about you? Have you seen the sort of the vision and the purpose that you've had at Aegis in terms of giving you that sort of that moral compass, for want of a better word? You just need to take yourself off mute.
Yeah, certainly with us, it's right from the day one of the company, it's been about the vision and the values of the company. So in terms of why do we do things, throughout the lockdown and the difficulties that we've been having, that everyone's been struggling with, when we've been debating ideas in our management team and we've been thinking, what do we do? How are we going to communicate? How are we going to resolve an issue? We come back to our values and we say, is it in line with the respect? Is it in line with doing the right thing? Is it excellent? You know, these are the values, and we find that when you're struggling to make a decision, focus on those things, and it's really helped to move the issue forward in the right way.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, I think again, whether you're in athletes, and for them, I guess going back to Jess Ennis, her vision was to be on top of the Olympic podium, wherever it was, be it Beijing or London or Rio. That sense of, this is my dream, this is where I'm heading one day. And you need to have that, because without that strong sense of vision, if you do get the knocks, and everyone gets the knocks, or you fall off, or training becomes too tough, or the world becomes too tough, you just give up, or you don't pursue it with that same sort of energy. That if you've got something that really you're passionate about, you know you're making a difference to the world. It makes such a difference. I was just put onto this notion a few weeks back by an organization called Acceleration Partners, and they don't just talk about having a vision. they're talking now about having this vivid vision. And I really like this idea. I think it's something that we can do something with right now. It's because what Bob Glazer's done with his vivid vision is look forward 3 or 4 years, and with such clarity about where the organization will be in that time, what the team will look like, what offices they've got around the world, what products they're working on, what's the culture going to look like, what awards they're winning. Literally, he's got this clarity, and then being able to commit it to paper and sort of kind of build that. So actually, when you're talking to others around you, you're talking to team or stakeholders, it just makes it easier for them to see the journey you're on and get excited around that, and then bring in maybe future team players, or bring in stakeholders, or bring in investors. So I think one thing to think about is, what is your vivid vision? What could you do in order to sort of protect right now, 4 to 2, 3 years, and what would your business look like then? That then gives you that same sort of focus and energy that we're about. Again, athletes and successful business people have real clarity in their goals. So that's one thing we encourage all our businesses every year, beginning of the year, set down, what are your goals for the year ahead? What do they look like? And unsurprisingly, those people who commit their goals to paper, as opposed to just having them up here or having some sort of loose wish list or a New Year's resolution, it's those people who commit themselves and their goals to paper, making those goals really specific, making them measurable, making them achievable, having some sort of time band around it, tend to be those that are successful. Lots of people have got, many of us have got goals that are just going on in the head. I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that, and quit smoking or get fit or be this way, but actually come far short because we don't commit, we don't have it written down in paper. So making sure that we can follow those sort of traits as well. Having clear goals, it doesn't necessarily need to be too many, but it's precisely bringing that vision alive. Once you've got a goal, well, then you can commit it to a plan. And once you've got a plan, then you can commit it to action, some sort of action. Doesn't really matter what it is, but moving forward around a goal. And one of the notions I've been really working on with a number of clients through the lockdown is actually saying, right now, it's probably not just good enough to have goals. If we're going to prevail, we need to have massive goals that are challenging, that are focused, that are able then to inspire massive action. And I think by doing that, it's almost like, if you heard this expression, having a burning platform. And if you're able to put a burning platform under something, you kind of get to move people towards greatness. As soon as you move away from a burning platform, we kind of just drift back into not mediocre, but just doing whatever it takes. So making sure that you've got massive goals, probably frighten the socks off you, but putting them down, taking every single day massive action towards achieving those particular goals is undeniably going to make you more successful. What they say to them, like shoot for the moon and stuff like that, or shoot for the stars, you hit the moon. That's huge progress around that. And again, I remember listening to Clive Woodward probably about 10 years ago now, and he was talking about what it took to win the Rugby World Cup with a team of players. And frankly, yeah, they were the best team going into the 2003 World Cup. But the goals that they had, the action that they were taking to get themselves the fittest team in the world, make sure they had the best tactics, make sure they had the best coaches, make sure that everything they did to prevail in winning their dream was in place. And there was been nothing, no stone unturned to make sure that they arrived at those championships with the very best shot of being successful. And to a degree, that's what you need to have in business, some sort of huge goal that you're aiming for, and then some degree of massive action around that. So just guys, just going to bring the guys back in again now. Michael, I know you're into sport as well, and sort of orienteering and all those sort of things, and follow rugby like I do. What do you think are the root causes for us to fail or sometimes fall short in our goals? What would you put it down to?
Well, it's quite a simple thing. It's the fact that you should never give up. And I know it sounds easy and many people mention it, but it's literally down to that, especially in sports. When running, it's always easy to say, okay, fine, I'm not feeling well, and just give up. But the first time you do it, then that will sort of next time you feel bad, it will make you stop again. So that's why it's just simple, just never give up. Because the moment you give up, that's when you fail. If you don't give up, then you haven't failed, you're just trying. And I don't mean I'm not going against the grain and I'm not doing things you hate doing, because I'm a big sort of, I don't like the whole sort of motivation movement where people force themselves into things. It's about discovering your why, like Simon Sinek says. But then once you're on it, just continue. And like with COVID, I compare it to going surfing on normal waves, and suddenly a tsunami came, and we now sort of all tumbling over. Some businesses, will die, but we just have to wait until we are thrown onto shore, stand up, and then just continue what we are best at. And it might mean a totally different business model. For some, it might be just closing down, like restaurants and other places. If you do the math, and anyone who's taken out a loan to survive, well, they might have to rethink the whole sort of tactics for the next few months and just start all over with the big goal in mind, which is closely related to their purpose in life.
Yeah, interesting. And Chris, just bringing you in now, I think we've identified this a number of times, haven't we, about the challenge of accountability. It's one thing having goals down and tasks to be done, but sometimes with that lack of accountability, people stepping up, then all the best strategies in the world, can get sort of can fall down. What have you seen around the challenges about getting accountability to ensure we're achieving our goals?
I think accountability, that's absolutely key. Is one of the big drivers of what we're trying to do at the moment, is to nail that whole concept of people knowing what they're accountable for and being able to deliver it. So it comes back to one of the other things that you've always taught us, Neil, which is to keep the main thing. And everybody needs to know what their main thing is, and then they need to be aiming at that. What makes us fail when you're distracted onto things that are not your main thing. Yeah. And then you fail to do the main accountabilities. And when that happens, well, it depends what the accountabilities are that are being missed. But in any case, they're going to impact the effectiveness of your team. So I think it is about, you talked about discipline and focus a few minutes ago.
Yes. The
main thing, focus and discipline on the main thing. And that's, failing is when you drift away from that.
Yeah. Interesting. Katie, just going to bring you in as well now, because obviously you've got a number of clients in London and around the world. What do you see that causes your clients and the people that you work with to fall short on their goals?
Yeah, what Chris already said about getting distracted and losing sight of and losing clarity of what's most important, and then running after all the urgent things instead of focusing on the important.
Yeah. And
it is, of course, like very turbulent times now, but even to make it a point to just have 2 hours a day for every person to focus on that main thing, focus on that most important thing, is really valuable, no matter how big the business and no matter what's the role. And then also what causes us to fail or fall short in general, I think it's this motivation in the beginning and then the loss of motivation that needs to be replaced with routine.
Yeah.
So if we just rely on this feeling of feeling inspired, feeling motivated, accomplishing our why, moving towards our purpose or fulfilling our purpose, that feeling is not there all the time. And sometimes it's even we lose sight of it, and it doesn't feel that important. So when we keep going and we keep having our routine around it, then it comes up again, and sometimes we lose sight of it. But to know it and to replace the motivation with the routine, I think is really important.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think the other thing is that you talk about motivation there, and I think that's where coaching in sport and probably in business really sort of comes to the fore, because all of us by nature, if it's chucking down rain outside, you probably don't want to go out and do the training session. Turn over and go back to bed. Sometimes we've got to do some tough things in business that we'd rather not do. And we're having that accountability that, you know, coach brings to make sure you ship up to the athletics track at a certain time, and you can do the laps and you do whatever it takes. That accountability is probably, again, one of the big keys to achieving goals on a consistent basis, of being able to stretch our ability to do things, stretching our capabilities, and doing that. So I think the other thing that athletes, business people, and everyone all over right now is probably being more challenged with is this whole notion of how do we become resilient. You know, this has been as challenging for all of us as probably, you know, we can ever remember. You know, how do you front up to these challenges? But, you know, we all get knocks, you know, and even the great, you know, maybe fall over in the middle of a race and, you know, have to dust themselves down. You get injured in training just in the run up to a big meet, or, you know, in football, you get injured, and, you know, you're at, and in business, we get knockbacks as well, don't we? We get knockbacks, maybe lose a big client. We may have a key team member who leaves our organization. We may have challenges with the bank. We may have, you know, we have challenges all over the place every single day. And I think one of the traits that a lot of folk had to sort of front up to is, if we're going to be successful, is having a healthy dose of resilience, being able to do whatever it takes. And I think that resilience does come from, one, going back to this notion of having a strong sense of purpose. Because if you've got that, if you know precisely where you're heading, why you're heading there, you're more likely to be able to bust through a wall or do whatever it takes than if you just go, it doesn't really matter, I'll just hunker down for a bit, I'll be okay, I'll come back, you know, good when this whole thing's gone away. That's not what winners really do. Winners really have that ability to dust themselves down. You have a tumble, but you get up and you do whatever it takes to get back onto the rostrum again. And I think that trait, there's sort of Japanese proverb that, okay, you fall down 7 times, but actually, you know what? You get up 8. You know, just the way it is. You're able to dust yourself down. So just a couple of things to reflect on here to help build. If you struggle a bit with resilience, I think 4 different areas that you can look at. Number one, we talked this quite a lot around it, but definitely if you've got stamina and you're feeling fit and you're feeling good and you've got the right nutrition and you're getting good sleep, that's going to give you physical energy. Conversely, if you're not getting great sleep, if you're not eating well, if you're not feeling good about yourself, then you kind of feel sluggish, you have the motivation, you just, you know, manana, or do what, you know, whenever it is. But you fall short of that. Or worse still, you might just you get emotionally detached. Whereas people who are able to be emotionally calm when everyone else is losing their head around them, being able to have that sort of positive ability. Again, we're all going to have different emotions, but being able to have some mindfulness, be able to develop a peaceful mind is important. As well as a lot of people find energy from a sort of spiritual camp, and are able to put huge thought into that. And then finally, being able to have the mental rigor, the mental self-belief, the mental ability to keep that sustained focus when others are kind of losing it around. Again, I think Dave Brailsford talks about the ability to control the controllables. You know, there's a lot of things we can't control much. Let's put those to one side and just really hunker down on the things that we can control. So again, if there's areas that you're challenged around these sort of areas, it's something that people like coaches or mentors or others like that can really help you with, is to help build your resilience around that, so that not necessarily the whole time you're seeing problems or the glass half empty, but maybe seeing opportunities. And by that I mean, I think it's so easy right now, and I've said right back at the beginning of this webinar, I think there's people who fall into 2 camps. Those people who see this challenge as an opportunity, who see that maybe some innovation, new products, new markets, maybe new team members that weren't available that we spoke about last time. And then there's the other camp who say, this is an absolute nightmare. This is a massive problem. I'm just going to, you know, either freeze like a rabbit trapped in the headlights, or I'm just going to do nothing and just let the whole thing pass you by, and then hopefully just believe it's a bad dream. So you are. But I've definitely noticed those people who've seen this as an opportunity to be the best they can be, to grow their organization, to grow their team, to improve their processes, to improve their sales teams, will prevail around that. Now, I was thinking, doing some preparation for this webinar, I reminded myself of probably goes many years back to a very, very inspirational guy called Jack Canfield, who's written the Success Principles and also I think other great books like Chicken Soup for the Soul. Never forget this. Jack came up with this equation that I've just shared on the screen right now, and it goes something like this. He said E plus R equals O. E plus R equals O. So depending on what happens, so the event that happens in our lives, the outcome to whatever happened in the event is determined by the response we give. So for that, and I think this is the example he gave at the time. He said, look, if you are driving along in your car and you come to a traffic jam in front of you, you could either have a response that's like chucked all your toys out the pram, you get frustrated, you get angry because there's a traffic jam, you're going to be slowed up, you're going to be late or whatever it is, you just really get fired up and really challenged and angry and frustrated or whatever it is. But the outcome is going to be very different to that person who draws up with a more of a calm, mindful state. Actually, this is going to be an opportunity now to maybe listen to an audio tape or listen to some learning or stuff like that probably haven't been able to do for a while. Can't control, what's going on in front, but I can use this as an opportunity to make an important call. I don't think you could use mobiles back then, but make an important call or do some self-learning. The outcome from that person is going to be very different to the person who got angry and got upset around it. And it reflected on me again, I think those people who have responded to the pandemic, it's an event that's affecting all of us in the same sort of way globally, but as humans, we can give, and leaders, a very different response that in turn will give a very different outcome. So those leaders who say, okay, this is a challenge affecting everyone else, but what I can do is pursue excellence. What I can do is look to grow my team. What I can do is revisit my strategy. What I can do is improve the process, all the things we've been talking about. That person is going to have a very different outcome to the other person who's actually saying, look, right now this is horrible. Right now I'm frightened. Right now there's things that are just too awful for words, and ultimately doesn't. They will have a very, very different outcome. So really, really powerful equation to use. And I think again, when you get to a place where you are stuck, or there is an event that you kind of haven't really figured out, that response that you determine your outcome is a useful, really useful way of framing it. And equally, it just reminded me, one of my clients in Hodgkinson, I'm not sure if he's on the call today or not, often came up with this quotation. He said, Neil, it ain't about how hard you hit. No, it's not about that at all. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And I think right now we're being hit pretty much in the solar plexus, hit all over. But it's that resolve, it's that focus, it's that mindset that we will prevail. We'll do whatever it takes because that's the sort of people we are. That's sort of, that's required. And it's interesting in business. Everyone thinks people like Dyson are immediately successful, but and lose sight of all the failures that they had before ultimately they got to where they are today. When he talked about over 5,000 prototypes until he actually landed on the final vacuum cleaner. But he was prepared to live with failure, and the same was with Thomas Edison and everyone else for that matter, who know that in terms of making repeated failures, you learn from, and it's failure you learn from, it's hardship you learn from. It's not necessarily all learned from success. And definitely, when you're in the good times, it's easy to get fat and happy and just sort of with that mindset. It's in the tough times that your character comes to the fore, and you can make a difference. And interesting again, with Michael being on the line today, and you have Michael's pivoted, come up with new innovations, new ideas. You could have easily hunkered down and just said, look, you know what, we'll just survive this thing, or see this as an opportunity. I'd actually bring you on that point, Michael, because I think interestingly, again, being in sport and in business, what is your mindset when it comes to things like failure? How do you sort of frame failure, and how do you sort of use that as a sort of energy in your business?
mean, it's similar to Dyson and Edison. It's not because I follow them, but I think I was like that ever since I was born. I just always worked out that if something doesn't work out, I just have to continue doing it. And I know I'm a bit stubborn, like most entrepreneurs are.
Yeah.
And that's the same as what I said. I just don't give up. Sometimes it's not for the good. Like I've injured myself once, and I continued running because I didn't want to give up. Because I knew that the moment I give up, I'll always find excuses in the future. So same as, yeah, and whatever you've quoted is very true. I mean, each failure is actually a lesson learned. It's like last year we bought a company and it wasn't a success. We can't say it was a failure, but because of that, we're now much better prepared for future acquisitions, and there'll be plenty of acquisitions now during the downturn. So it's out of a failure, we've got now a opportunity to just steam ahead.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Katie, just bring you in as well in terms of when you see failure, you know, with some of your clients, they're trying new things and they're pushing the boundaries, stuff like that. How do you help them as a coach navigate through challenging times?
Yeah, so let's say personally, I totally agree with Michael. I always try to actually look for the failure because I know that's where the growth is.
Yeah.
So I think it's more about the mindset than actually trying to avoid it, because then people don't go that much into the stress reaction, and they don't act out of fear, they don't go into fight or flight, or work from this place of pushing and forcing and adrenaline. But it's more about being curious of what's working and why, what's not working and why, how can we adjust, and seeing it more as a project and experiment. Instead of taking it very personally and then getting that emotional pushback with every time something is not going the way it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes it's also just about sitting it out. Some things really now, as Michael said earlier, some people will lose their businesses, and it's not a good thing, and that's okay as well. Sometimes to not always strive for looking at it from a good point of view and seeing the positive in everything. Sometimes that's just what it is, and it sucks, and that's okay. And then to regroup and move from that place of having made peace with it. But yeah, otherwise it's just about reframing and looking at it from a different perspective.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think, again, Branson talks about, you know, you don't learn to walk by following rules. You learn by doing and falling over and over. And, you know, when we're kids, you know, with babies, you're just falling over all the time. You're just encouraged to get back up again. And at some stage in our lives, you kind of have that beaten out of us. Quite a few of us do. You know, so I think it's your real entrepreneurs who are able to just consistently, you know, embrace failure and see new opportunities, you know, where others just literally will want to avoid them at all costs. And going back to in the final dance with Michael Jordan, you know, again, obstacles don't necessarily need to stop you. You know, if you run into a wall, don't just turn around and give up. You figure out how to climb it, go through it, or work around it. You know, that's creativity. That's the resilience and the notion of someone who's uber successful, as this guy was. I think I love this photograph more than anything else where I put it in today, because actually, whatever it says at the bottom might make you dirty your pants. But I think for some, yeah, this notion of being like real rabbits trapped in the headlight. I'm absolutely convinced there's a lot of businesses right now who unfortunately are just like that. They are fearful. They are just literally, and again, when you get fear that overtakes you, you know, it kind of shuts the whole system down. There's both positive endorphins, but the stress endorphins can really stop you from moving forward if you're not able to know how to do that. But also knowing that actually fear, more often than not, isn't real. It's false expectations appearing real. So it kind of our negative head trash, our mindset is actually creating something that, you know, creates real fear. But in many instances, it's not actually reality. But actually, it's just creating these false expectations that appear real. So again, having others around you, and sometimes having, you know, again, we're going to talk in a bit about having advisory boards or mentors or coaches, but people who can actually talk you through what the challenge you're going through and actually rationalize it and give you the sort of the roadmap forward is quite an important area. and Michael will recognise this as well, because again, we're both into sort of rugby and some of Clive Woodward's philosophy. But this is something that I quite often use. It's a really neat notion that Clive brought into the England camp, and he called it teacup. And by this, he talks about the ability to think clearly or correctly under pressure. In those heightened moments, at the most huge adrenaline charged moments when the pressure couldn't be higher, are you able to make the right calls? Are you able to do whatever it takes? And they knew that they were able to make the right calls because they'd done it so many times. They did scenario planning. They run the drills so that they kind of they're able to make those right calls. And that's one of the things right now is probably being able to make those right shouts when under pressure. That's the difference between success and failure. What are your thoughts on this, Michael? What are your thoughts in terms of the sort of notion that Clive Woodward thinks here?
Yeah, and I also quite like the military saying, which is practice as if you're fighting, fight as if you're practicing. So just go over and over.
Yeah.
And then once it happens in real, you already know what to do because you sort of bounce the ideas beforehand, or you've already got a plan for it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's so true. And again, I can't believe how many times, certainly this is with sales teams, that we put the first time of practice with a sales team is actually with clients or customers, and wonder why we're really challenged in that particular area. But do it. But I think this is business or whatever. Winners never quit, and actually quitters never win. I think that resilience to do whatever it takes is so important. I think Tony must still be with his client right now. I haven't seen him come on as a panelist, so we'll come back to that. But I think what I've seen against most of the clients I've been working with right now is this commitment to excellence, commitment to do whatever it's going to take to prevail, and to ask that of the team. I know, Chris, I'm just going to bring you in at this stage. Tony's not able to join us, and it's something that we've been really focused on, isn't it, with Aegis, about stepping up and bringing your best game every single day to the organisation, to be everything you do is the best that you can be. How have you gone about doing that?
I think in these last few months, the way perhaps we've gone about tackling this is to think very carefully about how we frame and communicate with our people, about just thinking about the lockdown and the challenges and the uncertainty that we've all faced. I think it's probably been about being very clear about what our objective is as a business. So I can remember sort of not literally standing up in front of people, because you can't do that anymore, but saying we have an objective, and we're going to go into this as a team, and we're going to come out of it as a team. At the end of it, I'm going to be able to stand up when we do have a company meeting. I'm going to say, we got through this together, and we're stronger as a result. So I think framing that and then saying, to do that, we know you've got challenges, and we know it's going to be difficult for many people. So what we need you to do is when you're able to deliver, you've got to bring your best time to deliver. You've got to bring your best work, and then separate that out. And if you've got childcare issues or family issues or stuff like that, because the schools are closed and all that sort of stuff, then in that time, switch off from work, deal with your family, make sure everything's okay there. Because if you've got a good family behind, you've got your sound in that basis, then when you can concentrate on work, you do bring your best work. I think that's how we try to tackle it.
Yeah, really, really neat. And again, this trait, I think, is both in the sports people who, like Michael Jordan, who've not only demanded excellence of himself, and that meant being the best he could be, and train harder and harder. It was just the same with Johnny Wilkinson, who slotted over the drop kick against Australia. Johnny demanded such high standards of himself. He would just go back and practice and practice and practice, and then practice some more, just to make sure that excellence was right at the front of his mindset. I think that's something that we, all of us look up to that. But how do we bring our best game head every single day? I think as leaders, I just want you to think about this for a minute, is because to a lot of your team, you'll be the role model, and they'll look to you to set down a great example and the right habits. So as long as you're leading by example and demonstrating excellence, then it's fair that you can actually ask that of others around you. And just had to remind me another tool that I've often used with my clients when coaching, and this is very, very powerful, and it's above and below the line is the name of this tool. And right now, I get that there's some massive challenges, huge challenges, and it'd be very easy for us to blame others, blame the economy, blame the government, blame this horrible disease, or we'll make excuses. But interestingly, leaders, successors, winners, whatever course of life they're in, tend to operate above this line. And they're the ones who take ownership of the situation. Look, it's happened. You know, we have a pandemic. We can either blame the government or blame Chinese or whatever it is, or we can take ownership for this. And we were talking about with Chris a few minutes ago, we can be accountable for our actions and get others to be responsible around us and be above the line. And challenge ourselves whenever we drop below the line, when we find ourselves blaming others, when we're making excuses, when we deny, when we're not going into denial. And it's human trait. I get this. It's human that we will from time to time drop below the line. But having a process where you can encourage others, you know, to drop back up, you know, come back above the line, and using the language, the empowering language, we must do this. We will commit to doing this, as opposed to, you know what, nah, I'll try and get around to it, or maybe, or you should do this. Very, you know, sort of negative sort of language. You know full well, whenever we commit our mind to say, you know what, I'll try and get this done, you know full well that it doesn't really matter. So you find, and you maybe know that I coach, as soon as I hear the word try, I just say, you know, there's no do. Try this, you know, there's do or do not, as Yoda says. So again, this is a really powerful flip chart to have in the boardroom, in the meeting rooms, whenever you require it. Because right now, it's easy to blame others. It's easy to make excuses. We hear it all the time. But this isn't going to be, you know, getting us where we need to be. Successful people take ownership. They take accountability. They're responsible to whatever the situation is around them. So again, it's something that we can help you on in terms of having that, both the right mindset, but then how do you bring this philosophy day in and day out to your organization? And one of the other sessions that I had during lockdown, there have been many great sessions that I really enjoyed, was a guy called Keith Ferrazzi. And we've referenced Keith a few times through this webinar series. But Keith came up with and I'll send this around in the follow-up notes, a brilliant LinkedIn article. And then she shared it with Vern Harnish as well, this philosophy of saying, look, let's not waste this opportunity and just go back to work the way we would done. Let's go forward to work with a bunch of the habits or maybe behaviors that have served us very well during the lockdown. And Keith is well placed to be an authority on this because he's been writing about remote working and researching this for probably 7 or 8 years now. So he really gets this and understands around that. And in his, what he almost calls his recontracting, he talks about 8 different areas, and you'll pick this up on the LinkedIn article, you know, the importance of generosity, of collaboration, agility, absolutely get that. And some of these, and I'm just going to bring Chris in because I ran a session with Chris and the board of Aegis probably about 6 weeks ago, Chris was, and I can't remember, it wasn't long after I heard Keith talking, and we said, actually, let's work it around the board. What are the lessons, what are the behaviors, the things that we've been seeing go really well during the lockdown that we can actually sort of encapsulate and make sure we bring those into business going forward. So Chris, what would you highlight was some of the key areas that you and the board have taken on board again and make sure that we ingrain going forward?
Well, there are some there that some of the things that Keith was talking about are easier than others, and that's probably different between my company and another company. So one of the things, and I've already talked about it, is about introducing and really doubling down on accountability. That is something that we've struggled with, I'll be honest, and that's one of the areas we're going to focus on, and we're going to bring in this value of candor into that. And candor involves having difficult conversations, and people don't like it. Nobody likes having difficult conversations, and we've got to teach ourselves how to manage conflict in a positive way, and therefore support accountable behaviours. So that's one of the things we're going to take away from it. the one about vulnerability and authenticity is a really key one for me. And during this time, what we've done to do that is we as the leaders have regularly communicated with our team, and we've been really open about how our own personal ups and downs about this, and how it's okay to feel these ups and downs. Not everybody just floats through it. That's perfectly okay. You talked about failure and how do we deal with failure earlier on. One of the things I would say to that is that if you get a knock back, it's okay to be, on your heels for a little while. There's nothing wrong with that. You've got to make sure though that you do get up again. And I think by acknowledging that it's okay to be knocked back on your heels a bit for a while, get your breath back, get your strength back, and then get back up. That's something about, I guess there's agility and so on that comes into all of that. And generosity is definitely an important one. We've always been very, very flexible, and we've prided ourselves on trying to create a great working environment for our people, and we've tried to go even further during these times on that area. Yeah. I think those are some of the big things I guess that we've done.
Very neat. I guess Michael, bring you in. I don't know if you've seen this one before, but you've definitely been agile.
Yeah, but the other thing that we were quite lucky with was that we were sort of COVID ready, like not many, but some time before COVID happened. It was because we were introducing systems and procedures, and it was obvious that working from home is on the rise. So we were sort of working towards it, and then suddenly when COVID happened, we were already prepared for it. We suddenly had all the tools ready for working remotely, like design team working from abroad, from Greece. And it's working perfectly fine. And then when everything kicks off, being agile and just being able to change direction very quickly, but then also making it a business rather than just a experiment. Yeah,
no, definitely. No, it's a great philosophy, and I think I've taken a lot. I think even Bern is loves the term scaling forward, specifically right now, because it's quite hard to get to everybody the notion of scaling up. I think, geez, we're just trying to survive right now, literally moving our organisations, up in the same trajectory. But actually, the notion of let's go scaling forward. So I think we'll see a bit more of that. But we've been speaking about process series. If you want to 10x your company, your first step, you have to 10x your people. Then that starts with making yourself as a CEO, having to 10x yourself to be the best that you can be. I think one of the things I've been really grateful is seeing actually how much the CEOs that I've been working with have really stepped up and said, this is an opportunity not only to improve my business, but actually got a bit more time now to read and to learn more about becoming the best CEO that I can be. And I think doing that, I think the other thing that we've seen is that none of us have got the answers. So if you're in the sports world, it's no surprising that you're probably going to have 5 or 6 coaches if you're the likes of sort of Roger Federer or Rory McIlroy or whoever it is. They have lots of people around them who are able to see their greatness within them and give them the positive sort of vibes around them. And it's the same with coaching as well. No one has ever really achieved peak performance without a coach, and certainly no Olympic athlete has done. And I think it's the same in business now, that we're seeing those guys that are really prevailing and able to really accelerate or scale forward, see the benefit in having some sort of coach, having a mentor, having somebody that can guide them, someone that can bounce ideas off and keep them accountable for what they say they're going to do. I think we're definitely seeing the benefit of that. And it doesn't really matter. You're a basketball player, you're an athlete, you're a gymnast, tennis player, you're a business person. I think everyone benefits from having a coach of some sort. So I think the other thing I've seen as well over this period is not just having a coach, but actually the benefit of having a deeper advisory board, of bringing people into your organization that may just fill some gaps you currently have, or people that walk the path that you want to go down, and having those people around you that can keep you moving forward, bounce ideas off, help you when you're having a shitty day, or crappy day, or whatever the term is, sorry about that, but helping you dust yourself down and keep you moving forward. So I think having some sort of advisory board, having a coach makes a lot of sense. And we'll send you the details of some of the the programs we develop, one of which is quite new, but we're excited about that, is again bringing together a round table specifically for industry. I know we've got a lot of manufacturers on calls over the last 3 weeks, and having a round table where we can bring the learning of the proven growth tools we're scaling up, having that peer group support and expert coaching coming to one. So we'll send out the details about if that's of interest to you, how you can get involved in that. We've also, Bern and I, are going to be putting something together then specifically for smaller businesses, but that's again allowing people to survive, adapt, and then thrive. So we can talk about that as well. Really excited about Alan Milts is going to be joining us for a webinar from Melbourne in Friday, 6th of August. We were due to have our master's program, and Alan was due to fly over from Australia to be with us on, I think it was Thursday the 5th. But those of you who are involved in the master's program on the call, and I'll be again sending the dates out of the diary, but he's joining us for a very powerful hour at 9 o'clock on Friday the 6th of August. So get ready for that. It's going to be just very, very timely in terms of making sure that we've got all of our financial acumen where it needs to be